उद्योग से जुड़े यहाँ उद्योगपति हैं, और एक अच्छे देश को आगे बढ़ाने के लिए जो आप सबकी धारणा है, मैं उसमें थोड़ा बहुत, कि मैं उद्योगपति कभी रहा नहीं, लेकिन उद्योग के बारे में थोड़ी बहुत जानकारी है, आपके साथ कुछ मैं शेयर करूंगा। आज मंच पर विराजमान अभिनव जी का तो मैंने नाम लिया ही, हमारा जो यहाँ बैठे हुए हैं श्री एस.एम. जिल्लुर रहमान साहब, जो वाइस प्रेसिडेंट हैं वास्पे के और चेयरमैन भी है, वो रेमन ग्रुप बांग्लादेश के जी जी। डॉक्टर शरद कुमार कोहली जी बहुत ही पैनल के हेड भी हैं, और डॉक्टर संजीव हमारे लायक जी जो एग्जीक्यूटिव सेक्रेटरी हैं जनरल, साथ ही एस.के. दत्ता, डॉक्टर एस.के. दत्ता जी हमारे अच्छे पार्टी के प्रवक्ता भी हैं भारतीय जनता पार्टी का, और उद्योग के क्षेत्र में इनकी अभिरुचि भी है और अच्छे उद्योग में लगे हुए भी हैं। और उपस्थित आप सभी उद्योग जगत के कर्णधार, आप उद्योग जगत में जो कुछ भी कर रहे हैं, मुझे खुशी हुई कि आप कई देशों से यहाँ प्रतिनिधि भी आए हुए हैं। आप जानते हैं कि भारत सरकार ने NSIC की स्थापना 1955 में इसकी स्थापना हुई थी, और इसके प्रमुख अध्यक्ष और निदेशक मंडल का उस समय गठन भी हुआ था। और जहाँ तक निगम का मुख्य कार्य आमतौर पर जो वाणिज्यिक आधार है, कमर्शियल, उसको देश में सूक्ष्म और लघु उद्योगों के विकास को बढ़ावा देना, उसकी सहायता करना, उसका पोषण करना, ये सरकार का उद्देश्य है। और इसलिए राष्ट्रीय लघु उद्योग निगम लिमिटेड NSIC पहले इसकी स्थापना हुई थी। अब हमने उसके क्षेत्रीय कार्यालय भी देश भर में है। जहाँ तक मंत्रालय के बारे में कहा जा सकता है कि ये माइक्रो स्मॉल एंड मीडियम इंटरप्राइजेज मंत्रालय की ओर से देश में एक नया क्रांति लाने का काम हुआ है। प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र भाई मोदी जी की जो सोच है कि हम छोटे छोटे उद्योग को भी कैसे बढ़ा सकते हैं, कैसे लघु उद्योग के माध्यम से हम देश के विकास में उसको कैसे लाया जा सकता है, अग्रणी भूमिका अदा हो सकती है, इसका बहुत गंभीरता से हमारी सरकार ने इस पर विचार किया है। और ये पिछले 5 दशकों में भारतीय अर्थव्यवस्था के बेहद जीवंत और गतिशील क्षेत्र के रूप में ये उभरा है यह विभाग। और मुझे कहने में कोई अतिशक्ति नहीं कि हमारा जो एनुअल
come in robotics, probably the human mind may not be able to think about it, although human mind is the one who made that robot for that matter. So therefore but what she is saying is कि वो हैंडलूम को कैसे, so your question is more related to heritage.
Yes.
अगर आप टेक्नोलॉजी वालों से बात करेंगे तो वो तो सीधा बोलेंगे कि छोड़ो हैंडलूम को, टेक्नोलॉजी को लो।
No offense to you, Dr. Sharad. I was coming that as well. That
अच्छा, आप नहीं बोलेंगे छोड़ो?
No, नहीं बोलेंगे।
Okay, fine.
No, I would never say that.
हमें नहीं छोड़ना है, ये हमारी देश की विरासत है।
Ma'am, I left Australia. I gave up the residency and everything to come back to India to do things for my heritage, my country. So I would never say that. I was going to say that there are ways if that can be worked rightly with the fresh talent or with the people. R&D can be done, and those handlooms or your looms can be equipped to do customized processes as well through artificial intelligence and machine learning.
Yes, with the same product, with the same system, but
Yes. See, I'm not right now. I'm not equipped because I have not studied looms deeply. If I study them deeply, or if you work with the fresh talent, they can be done.
Sir,
It's
I
not
would
really
like to
possible.
meet you.
I have some idea of the looms, and which is why I said that जो handloom है, I think the handloom in itself should be preserved, and I don't think anybody would be able to replace handloom with anything. So there's no fear, no risk there. People who love handloom, the moment you say handloom, they will immediately rush to handloom. So I think that handloom niche is going to be maintained at all times. So I don't think you need to be worried. Let the automation work. Let them design
Thank
new
you.
technologies while your handloom will survive. Thank you very much to the panel here. It was absolutely wonderful talking to all the tech experts and hearing their views on artificial intelligence, about robotics, about IoT, about 4.0. So can we देखिए दो लाइनें आपके बात से याद आ गई. वक्त हमें देखेगा, वक्त हमें देखेगा, विश्वास है हमारा. वक्त हमें देखेगा, विश्वास है हमारा, करके ये दिखाना है, विश्वास है हमारा. आपकी बात से ही आगे बात को चल.
Professor P. Vigneshwaran. Mr. Monish Jindal. Dr. Deepak Garg.
I'm here for your service. Thank you so much.
उद्बोधन के लिए हम पुरस्कार समारोह प्रारंभ करने से पहले आप ही.
Nothing without human resource. So the world of work, people, it's all about people, and it's all about people. There cannot be, whatever be the technology, with due respect to Dr. S.K. Datta's wisdom also here on the, because he's not only a political analyst, he's not only a BJP think tank, but he's also a social activist in himself. So he understands the human values, the value of human being, shall I put it in the other way. Probably one of the best in the country. And we have industry experts. We have Nancy, who's a human trainer. She's into coaching. She's into training, and so on and so forth. We've got all experts sitting here. So let me open the discussion here. That when it comes to MSMEs, biggest problem. Let me start with ladies first this time, and I'll start with Nancy for that matter. The biggest problems that they face is they do not know how many people should be recruited. They don't know where to stop. And I have found almost 90% of the MSMEs, they are either under-recruited or they are over-recruited. Only 10% I find are perfectly recruited. The number of people they should be having, they have just the right person for the right job. So and she's not able to pay attention to the overall proprietary work that a business should be doing. So what is that one fine balance which any MSME or any business for that matter should strike in terms of human resource? And I'm being very, very pinpointed. Now you might come back and ask me that how would I know which business are you talking about? I mean, that is one question you can throw back on me. But I would answer that question by saying that generally, what are the principles which govern recruitment about the quantum of manpower? Your take.
Yeah. Good afternoon everyone present here, and it's extremely happy to be on WASPI platform. So I'm Nancy Juneja, I'm the CEO of RevUp and co-founder MentorX. And as the question put, I come from a diverse background, so I'll just tell from where I belong. I belong to a family who was the pioneer founder for Bobby Soaps. I don't know if many of them heard the manufacturing of detergent powder, Bobby Soaps. So I have seen my family into 30 to 40 years into manufacturing, trading. And from them, we shifted to education. So as Dr. Kohli rightly put, how we need to judge upon what is the need for the manpower. Then need to strike a balance between what is needed, and so that we don't have disguised unemployment in any of the business. So I've seen manufacturing, I've seen education, I've seen the mentoring industry. With due respect to Sir, as he said, the women running the business probably are not able to get know how to recruit and all that. So no bias between that. Once we start recruiting, once we start planning, once we start marketing research of any business for that matter, it's generally when we are running the business, we know what is the manpower which is needed, what is the need of the hour. So when we are starting, probably we recruit someone. The HR, the human resource, is the most vital part. And more than that, how we mentor them, the need of the mentor who is running it, one head, one rule, which matters. So the person who is running the organization, how they mentor that HR to groom up, how they mentor them to outgrow their skills for a particular department. And probably over the face of time, we realize whether we have appointed probably more than what we require. And then we have a hybrid system where we have technology, where we have manpower and so on. So it's like moving forward, we realize more. It's not a standard statement for each of the business, each of the sector, each of the businesses. But the moment we go across and start all the operations, it's the balance that we have to make. It's the 360 degree that we need to have a hybrid system to run an association.
So what you're trying to say is the quality which matters rather than the quantity.
Exactly.
Isn't it? Dr. Datta, I mean, I can't stop myself from putting you the question straight away. Being a social activist as well, and when the country is going through a bit of a difficult time, me and you have sat a number of times debating on the matter, unemployment, which is right now at the fore. So, and on one side we've got 11 crore people today recruited by MSMEs. In fact, to be very precise, 11 crore 10 lakh people. To be very precise, as far as MSME total recruitment is concerned. Do you think that if we scale up MSMEs, this problem of unemployment, which the country is rightly, they say it's set at 40, although I don't trust those numbers because God knows where those numbers from. I think they just keep flying around and then suddenly they become an authority. When you have 20 people talking about the 45-year-old unemployment at its highest, and it becomes an authority. So my question is that, are MSMEs the final solution to unemployment problem? If yes, then what is the role of the government at this point of time in making sure that most people get absorbed by MSMEs rather than they're looking for government jobs or everybody looking for a Tata job or a Microsoft job and so on and so forth?
Well, good afternoon everybody. Pleasure being here, and pleasure when I hear the witty questions of yours, Sharad. You always try to put me in a tight spot, and my job is to come out of that through a merry-go-round, from that tight spot. Before I answer this question of yours, since I am associated with the present dispensation, so therefore my responsibility becomes all the more tough and all the more important. So I have, as you have rightly mentioned, that I do have a social background. I have worked a lot for the betterment of the society, but at the same time I'm very political also. So it would be a combination of all the factors, right? So before I come to this particular question of yours, let me do a summation of all the previous speakers. Technology is something which is, of course, the need of the hour. No technology is primitive. Too much of technology is disastrous, like the way we are seeing across the country now on the Citizenship Amendment Act. When too much of technology floods in the society, it becomes viral, and then the danger of renting comes in it. So it has to be a kind of a level where there is an optimum use with maximum benefit. So, and that's the ideal situation or a scenario for the country as such. India, if you look into, India has had different phases of technology in different eras, in different times. It can be debatable as to whether that was technology or whether the present notion of technology is technology as such. if I have to talk about supersonic technology, then perhaps the Sudarshan Chakra of Lord Krishna is the most supersonic technology ever given on earth, you know. So that's a different debate. I don't want to go into that. You had raised a very important question in relation to the small scale, medium and cottage industry and what should be the role of the handloom sector. I understand that yes, the civilizational strength of our country and the cultural ethos of our country has been based on this particular sector as such. Therefore, it becomes very, very vital for us to, you know, like not only upgrade this sector, but at the same time to make sure that it remains safe and secure. Since I saw the banner behind, and I believe the Ministry of Micro, Small, Medium and Cottage Enterprise is a part of this whole event as such. The backbone or the responsibility of this lies with this ministry, together with the Ministry of Textile, Government of India. Fortunately, for the present dispensation, we have a leader who is very, very visionary and who is very dynamic. The Honorable Prime Minister has made it very categorical that if we have to make in India and Made in India successful, then we have to strengthen this backbone which has been passed on for us through centuries. You spoke about Mohenjo-daro and Harappa. This tradition which you are mentioning about, you know, like I mean, this tradition has been passed on to us. It is almost around 3,500 years old now. You know, so a tradition which has survived through all the lapses of centuries. That means that how important this sector must have been. Who can forget about the muslin of Dhaka, or for that matter the Varanasi silk of Banaras, you know, or the Kanjivaram of South India, or the batik or Toshor of Bengal. You know, so this industry needs to be preserved because it actually shows, or it actually, you know, metaphorizes India at the global level as a different kind of an entity, as a different kind of a cultural entity as such, you know. So therefore the responsibility becomes much more important. This is not only in relation to the handloom sector, but is in relation to all the cottage and small scale industry as such, you know. So the present government and this ministry, personally myself, I know for Nitin Gadkariji, you know, like I mean, he is coming up with several innovative ideas, you know, and every day there is some kind of innovation which is being churned out in this ministry. And by the coming budget, once this new budget is presented in 2020 on the 1st of February, I believe there is going to be a specific specialized scheme in relation to the upgradation of the small scale, medium and cottage enterprises, and especially in relation to the handloom sector. The minister keeps on saying that if we have to make in India successful, we have to make this successful as such, you know, and we have to present this at the global level as a kind of a thing which is a patent of India as such, you know, and therefore we have to go in that direction. And I believe that if there is a proper kind of a thinking in relation to this sector, we will see in a lot of innovation coming up in coming years, and definitely this sector would be given the due importance which so far wasn't given as such, you know. So I guess I'm able to satisfy a little bit of your query. Now coming to your question, Sharad, it is a very tricky question which you have asked me, but I believe that yes, there has to be a kind of a synthesis of technology together with social norms of the country and with the society at large. If technology is used for the betterment of the society, then it creates in wonders for the country and for the nation. But if technology is used for the disaster of the society, then that creates in a kind of a civilizational dark ages as such, you know. So therefore, the demarcation line between the two is very, very thin, and it's very catchy because you really don't know when you are this side of the demarcation and when you are this side of the demarcation. If you are on this side, then probably your limit is as high as the Mount Everest. And if you are on this side, then probably your thing of going down to the dungeon is as deep as Marina Trench. You know, so like the demarcation line is very, very thin. Now coming to the second part of your question as to is the small scale, medium and cottage industry the answer for this? I guess yes, to a great extent it is true. Because we know that no matter how progressive India has become and how technologically oriented we have become and how techno-savvy we have become as such, the role of the Indian society in relation to the growth process of the country, growth process which is not only financial and economic, but which is also social, you know. Because if we don't have a proper social growth process, we cannot have a proper economic growth process or a financial growth process. Therefore, for that overall kind of a growth scenario of the country, small scale, medium and cottage industry and the agricultural sector plays in a very vital role. Because this will remain forever. It will remain forever in a country like India, because a country like India cannot discard a beautiful silk sari, or for that matter a beautiful shawl, or for that matter a beautiful jewelry. You know, as long as all these things remains embedded in our tradition, this sector is going to survive, and this sector will give in a lot of sustainability to the development of the country as such, in terms of economic model or in terms of social parameters. And employment, which you have mentioned about, yes, I do agree with you that in the Indian scenario, it's very difficult to make an assessment as to what actually is the employment growth of the country. Because when we talk about this generic employment, which is very stereotypes in terms of Western definition, then we actually take only the organized sector. We do not take the unorganized sector. Large part of the industrial contribution of our country comes from the unorganized sector.
Absolutely.
So therefore, in an Indian case, I have always said that we have to invent a model which is Indic in nature, but at the same time it has a global perspective.
Absolutely, I totally agree, and very well said, Dr. Datta. And in fact, it's about, I mean, the government never ignored this, and this government, for that I know, is, I mean, although you know better than me on what happens inside the power corridors, but is very, very committed to bringing MSME sector up, and its contribution be hiked from 29% GDP to 50% GDP for that matter. I have with me on my right and to your left, a founder of a startup called My First Boss. Now, a very interesting startup for all, to introduce to my fellow panelists also. What he does it, he goes to the colleges and comes true to his name, My First Boss. So, the college students, the professional course aspirants, he picks them up and he gives them a direct placement with the corporate without an intermediary, without any formal, of course, he helps them in making their CVs and profiles, the basic counseling and so on and so forth. Now my question is that what has been your experiment like so far? I understand you've been in the market for some time. What has been your experiment? Do you feel these millennials, these youngsters who are just out of colleges and who haven't had a formal training or internship and so on and so forth, do you think that they are a good option? Also, I mean, the industry doesn't need to pay them a bomb because they're just out of the college, so they're happy with a decent salary which comes their way. They're not looking for moon, for that matter. So how do you compare these millennials with trained people, since this is your forte? Have you found that these millennials are very good, even if they are raw, they are fresh, they are freshly out of the college? Or do you feel that they compete with the trained professionals, like something what Nancy was talking about, somebody who's been formally trained and gone through 1 or 2 years of rigorous training, vis-a-vis a person who has just been picked out of the classroom straight into the job? What do you say?
Thank you, Dr. Kohli, for the opportunity. As Dr. Kohli said, basically I'm a founder of My First Boss. The name itself suggests that we're looking out for a first boss, or the candidate, the fresher is looking out for a first boss who defines or who shapes the career of the individual. Now, as we were talking about, as the other panelists were talking about, I feel that the issue of unemployment, the major issue is the issue of underemployment. There are a lot of freshers who give, as Dr. Kohli was saying, there are a lot of freshers who can give trained people a run for the money. The advent of Industry 4, the transformation of digitalization, basically we forget only one thing here, is the soft skills which can actually transform this industrial revolution. When I say soft skills, it is not only about English, it's not only about communication. When I say soft skills, basically we talk about problem solving, we talk about customer approach, we talk about consumer focus. These, when a fresher understands all these things, whatever domain he is, whatever background, whatever role he is, he can play a major role in any sector or any domain where he can qualify. For example, a sales guy who can understand this can be a better salesperson if he understands these soft skills. If he understands the consumer, he can be a better sales guy than the trained people. As what we do basically is, our idea is, rather than creating center of excellences, we try to create center of affluences, where people upgrade their skills, they upgrade their knowledge, and even existing freshers. When I say a fresher could be someone who's working, who's got 2 years of experience. He also qualifies as a fresher because after 2 to 3 years of experience, he understands or he feels that now yes, this is the sector where I should be going into. So we try to upgrade the skills. We try to give him certain job roles where he upgrades his skills and he becomes a better trained person in terms of the other sectors. So we've got a good successful ratio in terms of the colleges coming to us. We've got good corporates coming to us. So we basically provide a proper platform where corporates can directly interact with individuals, directly interact with students.
No, Narendra, my question, I'm sorry I'm interrupting you here. My question was very specific, that when you compare this class of employees with the people who are trained, what has been the industry response? I mean, how happy they have been, or have they been unhappy about it, or have they been satisfied that yes, it is better to recruit a fresher, train them in-house, and let him climb the ladder? Or do you take a pre-trained person and let him put him straight away on the ladder? So what is the comparative? I just wanted, that.
I do understand. There has been an academy gap, basically. There is a gap. The corporates, or what the corporates require from a fresher, those freshers do not qualify to that. There are a lot of corporates who open their own training institutes where they basically train them, in terms of all these skills required for making them corporate ready. So there is a gap, but yes, we are trying to come up with a lot of corporate certified courses where we, bridge this academy gap which is there between a corporate and.
So is My First Boss also doing those courses?
We are doing those courses.
Lovely.
We have tied up with a lot of corporates where we are doing this particular courses. We call it CCRP, which is Certified Corporate Ready Professional. We make them corporate ready before they.
So gone are the days when you needed 2 years internship or 2 years training before you actually take up a full-fledged managerial job. And we see students being picked out of BCom honors, at SRCC, Hindu and other colleges, some of the good colleges in Delhi University. They get picked up at very good, but there's one drawback that I found: when you pick up a student from graduation, you sometimes, it acts as a barrier in higher education, because you get used to a pay packet and you start getting a package of something like 12 lakhs per annum or 20 lakh per annum, and then the candidate never bothers to study because अब मैंने तो कमाना शुरू कर दिया, अब क्या करना है पढ़ के. But little does the person know that after a few years, your development, your entrance will be barred because somebody who's an MBA from an MIT or from a Harvard or from an IIM Ahmedabad is going to overtake you, even though the person will be younger than you. Is that true?
True, true.
So I think that is where the recruitment. I am personally against recruitment from graduation because you are spoiling the kid who's about 20-21 years old by giving him or her a salary which will prevent him from educating. because उसका वो तो फिर घर वाले कहते हैं अब तो कमाने लग गया, शादी कर देते हैं ना इसकी, अब तो पढ़ाई सब गई. So that is where I think the care needs to be taken. We also have the privilege of having two ladies here, Sumita and Anita. And I was talking to them about POSH, that is prevention of sexual harassment in the workplace, which has become such a common problem these days. And we find a lot of ladies who do not express, in their aspiration for promotions, or they're looking for better positioning. We find there's a lot of exploitation which happens. So I would like to hear from you that where do we stand today on POSH? And is that preventing, because only, if we talk of MSME sector, only 13% of the country's entrepreneurs are women. 87% are men. Do you think that POSH has a role to play there? Do you think if we forget the gender for a moment, do you think this percentage can be hiked and women can come more in the forefront? The mic is all yours.
Good evening, everyone. The reason why we're talking about POSH today is become a very sensitive topic. It's not that it hasn't been there earlier, and coming from my own background, I have been a UN coordinator, worked for so many countries. Women were equally in numbers in different places. But when I come to the platform where we think about our Indian organizations, we find women much less than men. There are several reasons for that. Yes, we do live in a male-dominated society, and that's what is one of the reasons why women, even if they are qualified, I have so many organizations where they prefer to have men. इनको जल्दी नहीं जाना पड़ेगा, देर तक लड़के काम कर सकते हैं. So these are issues that
इनको बाहर भी भेज सकते हैं.
बिल्कुल, और भी 4 errands करा सकते हैं उनसे, क्योंकि वो मना नहीं करेंगे. Women have limitations in terms of their movements. बहुत जल्दी अगर आपको कहीं लैडर चढ़ने का शौक होता है तो बहुत इजी होता है किसी औरत के लिए. Sometimes it's for the benefit. They work hard towards it. Sometimes there are easy way out as well. So POSH क्यों originate करा और क्यों हम इसको इतना ज़्यादा importance आज दे रहे हैं? It actually started from Rajasthan. 1992 में भाभी देवी was a lady, एक छोटे से गांव में social worker थी, और वहीं जो उनके co-workers थे, they had gang raped her. वो कुछ ज़्यादा नहीं कर पाई, थोड़ा बहुत केस चला, ये करा, लेकिन कुछ ज़्यादा नहीं हुआ. वहाँ पे कोई social organizations थी, there was a lady Vishaka and a group of women organizations that got together. So they came up for a case against Rajasthan government, and they realized कि अगर हम इसको सुप्रीम कोर्ट में करेंगे तो इसका कुछ असर होगा, क्योंकि कोई लेडी जो अपना घर छोड़ के, बच्चे छोड़ के अपनी